Okay, we're on. There's a 10-second delay for it to hit YouTube, but we are ready to go.
We're live. Okay. So maybe we should start by presenting ourselves. Amanda, do you want to start?
Yeah, okay. My name's Amanda. I have an electric skateboard and support Ridables group for legalising these vehicles for the future travel.
What do you do in
Hello,
real
everybody.
life?
Hold on.
What do I do in real life?
Yeah.
Sure. I'm environmental health and safety manager in real life.
Okay. Rob, sorry to
Hi, everybody.
interrupt you there.
That's okay. No, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Amanda. So hi, everybody. I'm Rob Hitch, also part of the Ridables team, and like Amanda, working to try and get, basically working to try and support the government, not only in what they're trying to do with rentals, but also try and get private ownership sorted out as well, and make sure that's not left out by any means. I ride electric unicycles, one behind me, just there, and I'm a project manager by day, mainly in aviation, which is a bit of a wrong industry at the moment.
Oh God. So I'm also part of Ridables, Ricardo. Yeah. I ride an electric skateboard. Been riding since 2016. Also part of Curve. See my hat. Yeah, and we're all trying to gather our forces to make these ridables, these personal electrical vehicles, legalized, and we're starting to get somewhere. Tim, you're in the stream as well.
Yeah, hi. I'm Tim, electric skateboarder, involved ambassador. I've been riding for about 3 years. The advocate, community kind of guy, organise group rides, stuff like that. In real life, I'm not quite sure. Work on secret projects.
So you've had your run-ins with the law, yeah, Tim?
Yeah, I have had. Well, you know, it's like 99% of them are good, and the 1% is you get taken to court. But yeah. So yeah, I got stopped for. I was riding my electric skateboard on street wheels down the cycle path from Big Ben to down towards Embankment. Got stopped by traffic police, and they tried to take me to court for riding a motor vehicle in a bike lane whilst ignoring a road sign. So like three prizes, the 5 to 1.
Wow.
Awesome.
Yeah, it didn't work out too well for them. But, yeah.
So what happened in the end, Tim?
The case lasted maybe 5 minutes, and we were out. We went in very well prepared. Is my cam running really slow? I'm really sorry. My computer's just updating. Yeah, so we went in very well prepared. There is a lot of stuff out there if you look. And kind of while I was talking to the magistrate, I was waving this big wad of notes, and they looked at it, and they were, yeah. I just said one thing, and they were like, basically, that's enough. Yeah, you can go.
So why was it so easy to get away with, well, not murder, but speeding and all of that?
It's really hard. It's kind of each case is going to have to be on its own merits. So it's depending on what you're riding, where you're riding, what you're doing at the time. But we were really prepared for what is the difference between a mandatory and an advisory cycle lane. So there's a real difference if you look at the way even the lines are painted, or how it's set out, or how it looks. Can be.
You went to that kind of detail.
Oh yeah, right down to the fine print on the lines that's on the road, and where you come into a cycle lane, and whether there's any signposts all the way down it. We looked at things like EU law regarding skateboards. We looked at the police can't define motor vehicle, so it's only the courts
Yeah,
that can
that
define
one.
motor vehicle. So if someone stops
That's good points for you to put on the screen, maybe later on. So I can help you go.
So the police can't define motor vehicle. So obviously, motor vehicle is something intended or adapted for use on the road. So if you're riding something that isn't intended for use on the road, it's not a motor vehicle.
Semantics. I like it.
That's when you bring it down to like fine print, it's there, and if it works in your favor, then obviously you take it with you on the day.
You made a video out of it, didn't you? Some points.
Yeah. I tried not to. It's really hard because I don't want to sort of say I'm giving legal advice, because that's probably going to.
Obviously, yeah.
Can't do that, but I mean, I can. My own personal circumstances might not be yours, but also most people who get stopped, the police show them this. Is it like a PV guidance or sheet that they have?
I've never heard of that.
Have you not seen it?
That's the first time. Yeah.
Okay, so they've got this sheet that's I think it's 10 points on it. There used to be 11 points on it. They've removed the 11th one. The 11th one basically states that it's not law. So this piece of paper that they're waving around, it just says it's ridiculous. It's
no way.
Yeah, seriously. So it says the point 11 was, this is our interpretation of the law. Please seek legal advice. So they've written it. They've cherry picked a couple of cases like mini motos and stuff like that worked in their favour. And and then they've written it to kind of, it didn't have any skateboards in there, didn't have any EUCs, they just hit scooters and a couple of things that really worked in their favour. And then basically at the end, it was like a disclaimer saying this basically isn't law at all. So they've removed point 11. So if you download the new version, it looks more official, even though it still isn't.
Is this
could you send us a link to that?
Yeah.
So I can
bust it up if you find it.
I'll look it up in the background while we're on.
Yeah, sure. While Tim is doing the background work, Rob, maybe you want to talk a bit more about Rideables and how did it come up? What was the reason behind it? When did it come up? What have we been doing so far?
So I was quite late to the Rideables party. So I came across Afiz Demilola on I think via Facebook, and prior to myself joining Rideables, Afiz had already done a number of interviews, I think, including the BBC as well. And of course, was instrumental, as I understand it, in getting the Rideables.org website content up there. So really, with recent events, I mean, Rideables have been working in the background, trying to push and to get micromobility devices. And of course, micromobility devices aren't just restricted to e-scooters. There are e-scooters, electric skateboards, electric unicycles, segways, hoverboards, you name it. And we had a nice break in March 2019 when the DFT launched their future transport sustainability white paper, where they made the definition for us, or confirmed the definition, and that they want to push micromobility. So really, from a Rideables perspective, from that point forward, we've been trying to get out there on social media to make people more aware of these devices. We've got more resources on the Rideables website, more going up on every week on the Rideables website, such as little downloadable sheets you can give to curious members of the public. I'm sure a lot of people who are watching now have been stopped by numerous curious people or members of the public while they're out riding. I know I have, including me choosing voluntarily to stop a police patrol car recently as well, which was fun because they were just extremely curious
we have,
about how I was riding.
Yeah, we have a.
He probably saw the video on that one. So yeah, it's with the trials
We have
coming
people
up.
from all over Europe watching as well.
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt you. Yeah, go on.
Oh no, that's fine. So
Go.
Rideable's UK based, and we are representing the riders, the community. We're working with manufacturers as well as engaging with government, UK government, to try and move these things forward, legalisation of these things. And we're not just talking about the rental trials, but we also want to talk about the longer term as well. And we're here to support the government and work hard to try and get to this common goal.
So to be clear, Rideables is not only about e-scooters. We work to legalize both the EUCs and the skateboards, the electric skateboards. Obviously, there's a more of an impact now on the news about the scooters because of the trials, impending trials that started this weekend. I'm not sure if there's already any city starting pronto. I've heard something, I've read something in the newspapers, but not sure if anybody has seen any scooters, any rental scooters live already. Amanda, do you want to talk us through a bit about what are the rules now for the scooter trials? What are the limits, and what do you think about them?
I think that there is a few limitations with the trials. First off, being rental companies only mean that there are going to be people riding them that are not used to riding e-scooters on the road, which will come out with it, and the output for that may be will be quite biased. I know that I've been riding a skateboard for a while, and I tried one in Portugal with the rental company while out there, and I found it really difficult to ride compared to the skateboard that I have. So I think the rules that to use just the hire company, also the absence of helmets as well. People aren't going to really have those, and I think already I've seen social media clips of people with e-scooters doing crazy things on them as well, which is going to be shared a lot more. So I think it's a good thing that the government is bringing something in to highlight these things. But on the other hand, I'm not sure the trials will have the right reflective output for what these vehicles can really be used for. So I know that in my case, this is really good for commuting. So I'm a professional, and this is much easier for me than getting on a tube or a bus or going around a central of town. So not a Saturday night thing, not a 17-year-old wheeling about on an e-scooter.
Yeah, so there's a few limitations, and you've mentioned already that it's only a rental trial.
We lost Ricardo.
So, what's that, sorry?
You're breaking up.
You.
Sorry. Yeah. So, am I back? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. You're back.
Technical glitches. Yeah. Sorry. So there's a few limitations. I was just saying the speed, which is limited to 15.5 miles per hour. No legal obligation to use a helmet, and we're only allowed to use these things on the road as well, and on cycle paths. What's your thoughts on that, Rob? What are your thoughts on these limitations?
I think the limitations are better than they were. The government were proposing a 12.5 mile an hour limit and a 300-watt motor. But thankfully, they listened to a lot of the feedback on their initial proposals, and that's why they then increased the motor size from 300 watts to 500 watts and the speed from 12.5 to 15.5 miles an hour, which I think addresses a lot of the initial concerns of riding on the roads They can go that few miles an hour faster to keep up with the slow-moving traffic in the big cities. However, there is still, I don't believe that's the key concern. I think the key concern is more widespread, and the key concern being, where are these devices going to be left? Where are they going to be parked? Are they going to be thrown into rivers or left on pavements, being hazard for people with eyesight difficulties, blind people, people with general disabilities? That is a big concern. And of course, the other concern are the riders themselves. Yes, you already mentioned, Ricardo, that helmets aren't mandatory. Which member of the public is going to be walking around with a helmet just in case they decide to rent a scooter? I suspect zero. And we've already seen some videos, not from this country, where people have got on an electric scooter, a rental scooter, for the first time on a road, and come a cropper. They're just not used to riding these devices, and that's dangerous. So, and the final piece, which is a concern, but I think that's probably down to self-discipline of the people renting, and that is that they need to make sure that they clean the handlebars before they use the scooter.
Yeah, they'll become statistics soon, and that's my fear, because times of COVID. So there's several disadvantages rental scheme. In my fear, there was a question about will these trials lead to legalization? I think that's the main goal, and I'll explain a bit more about that later. But I also fear that there'll be lots of statistics out there which will be skewed because it's just a rental trial, saying that these are downright dangerous and not suitable for the main roads. My personal opinion is that first, the limitation on speed. So bicycles, you can ride a bicycle much faster than 15.5 miles per hour. And if you're riding at that kind of speed on a 30-mile-an-hour zone, and if you want to just quickly get away from a car that's veering towards yourself, or if you want to get away from a situation of danger, you may want to have a bit more oomph in your e-scooter or your rideable, so that you can ride away from the danger. Obviously, not having a helmet will probably result not result in accidents, but the results of the accidents themselves will be a lot worse, because people regard this speed at 50 miles an hour as a slow speed. But Michael Schumacher, he was just going downhill on a slope, not going that fast, and he just hit a rock, and that's him done for life. He's in vegetative state for a number of years now. And most of the accidents that I see, be it in e-scooters or skateboards or ESCs, people either are well padded up and protected with the helmet and suffer barely any scars, or I've seen some horror stories in there, people that have had life-changing injuries just because they were not wearing protection. And the likes of the Daily Mail and the Daily Star and the Mirror and all those newspapers that love a good headline, they'll pick up on that like a bull to a rag, a red rag. So that's my main fear. Now, will this lead to legalization? So I've been reading lately in the newspapers that there's a few companies out there which are trying to set themselves up as rental companies, but also as a long-term duration rental business. So in other words, the user buys the scooter on a monthly payment kind of basis, and by the end of the trial, you own the scooter outright. So it's kind of forcing the question of it being legal after the trial, and I think if I distance myself away from rideables and all the conversations that we've been having with the DFT, I think they actually want this to be a success, and they want. I think the end goal is to have it legalized, and this is probably a way of allaying fears from the general population. And in a way, COVID-19 actually played into our hands, because if you remember, Rob, once COVID-19 was the news of the day, we started getting a lot more media attention because obviously best alternative ever to public transport in inner cities. What are your thoughts about this, Tim? As a user of a PEV, not necessarily an e-scooter, what are your thoughts about this trial? Are you going to give it a go? Are you going to try it? Are you going to stick with your skates and risk a fine? What's your feeling?
I'm probably not going to ride the scooters. I haven't had a good look at them yet, but some of the Lime ones I've seen have those piddly little wheels. I don't think they're particularly well made. I don't think they're particularly as safe as some of the ones you can buy for yourself. They're not good for London roads. I don't think it's still been particularly well thought out. I'd rather ride my electric board safer than one of these rental scooters. Also, I don't know if anyone's found any information about pricing yet, but I downloaded the Bird app a little while ago, and it was 25p a mile or something. It was quite a lot. I made a video a little while ago on how much it would cost.
Expensive.
To go from my house.
That's him. Yeah.
But the figures are wrong.
Or a minute? Is it a mile or a minute?
I don't know if it's by minute or mile, but I did my figures on 20p a mile, and the Bird app now says 25p a mile. So it would have cost me like £6,000 to ride an electric scooter to work and back, which is, it's not possible.
It's very expensive, and I noticed that as well, riding them in Europe. I also noticed that they weren't as good quality as the board that I have. And
it's not just not feasible.
Yeah.
I mean, riding, being a rider only of electric unicycles with no handlebars whatsoever.
I mean, I tried it in Paris.
I actually find the handlebars on these scooters very narrow. And quite off-putting, quite scary, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I have to say that as well, that the scooters are harder to ride, in my opinion, than some of the other electric vehicles out there. But scooters have had the press because that's what everybody thinks of when they think of these vehicles. They think scooters. But where I'm riding my skateboard, my hands are free. I can get off that board much easier and much quicker if I need to. I've got more control than the scooter, and I found that I had a slight accident with the one that I was riding in Europe compared to the board because I took my hand off the handlebar as part of a habit, and I nearly fell off. So I don't think they're that safe. They're also quite uncomfortable to ride as well, and like Tim was saying, the quality isn't great, but also what I did notice were some of the models that had been parked around were bashed up and not in great condition. I think that the one concern I have about this is if you pick up a scooter with a problem that's just been damaged and you end up in an accident, that's a concern. Whereas when you got your own vehicle, you know that it's good condition, you know the tyres in good condition, you know that you can stop it, you know that your lights are working. That's really important, especially when you're riding around and there's cars or other people on the road.
So Rob, have you ever had an accident yourself on a UC, and can you describe the sensation, or you've never had an accident?
Well, sorry. Me riding a single wheel device with no handlebars at speed, and I've never had. No, you're absolutely right. I haven't. So the only time I've come off it was lots of times doing 2 miles an hour while learning to ride it in the field, and ever since then, since I've mastered it, I think the wind caught me off guard once. So when I was about to step on it, I had to then step back off it again because the wind, there's a big gust going on. But No accidents at all. I wear safety gear. I wear safety gear to, you know, my decision. I've got a lot of safety gear. I've got like a full armor under jacket and, you know, knee braces and everything else. And basically, my decision on safety gear is based on how fast will I be riding today, and how fast am I happy at hitting the tarmac, and then I'll base my safety gear on that. But thankfully, touch wood, no. I haven't even got close to having an accident, and that's on an electric unicycle, which people think defies gravity and is very unsafe. And how about yourself, Amanda?
You touched an important point in there.
Oh, sorry, Ricardo.
You know, I was just saying that, Rob, you touched an important point in there, because it's. I just wanted to pick up on that quickly. It's the learning phase. So you've gone through that learning phase, and that's the same for skateboards. That's the same for e-scooters.
Yep.
It's the same for every kind of PEV. And we're now risking people going on a rental e-scooter, possibly after they have had a drink, to go home, and not knowing how to ride a scooter. Admittedly, it's not the hardest thing to do, to learn it. But there's always that learning curve that you need to get over. So it doesn't mean that the EUC or the skateboard are any less safe. It's just learning how to ride it. And rideables, as a grassroots community, correct me if I'm wrong, but we're thinking about actually starting to do some training and possibly in the future some certification for riders, so that private users can actually be comfortable out on the road, and not be scared of falling, know all the tricks, and know how to behave in traffic, and know how to be courteous, and essentially ride these machines and cut congestion. Sorry, I cut your question to Amanda. You were saying?
You're asking me what my what accidents I've had on the skateboard. I think the worst accidents I've ever had, or the most dangerous situations I've been in, have not been on the skateboard. They have been on a normal push bike where I flew over the handlebars and landed on my face, and on a horse when it bolted on the open road. Those were the most dangerous situations I've been in on the roads. I have fallen off the skateboard, but I wasn't hurt at all because I had a helmet and I had some wrist protectors. So really it's more a case about being sensible and learning how to use it, I think. I have seen people who have been injured. Most of the time they're not wearing the right protection, or they're fairly new at skateboarding as well, or using these vehicles.
Yeah, I think, I mean, there was I noticed that user SeekND FPV mentioned that he's had more accidents standing still, which I completely agree on that one. But there was a me too, actually, yeah. So there was a horrendous video, I think during lockdown or just before lockdown. This American guy who's very strong on the US electric unicycle scene, and he works in a hospital.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And he decided to go out. He normally goes out with his safety gear on, but he decided to, during a break in work, decided to go out and do some live streaming, no helmet on, and of course he wasn't paying attention, and he had the most horrendous accident. Blood everywhere. I feel really sorry for the guy. I can't remember his name, but I hope he's okay now, but he was landed with huge medical bills and everything else. And that was just, you know,
and that's the
an
US
experienced guy. Yeah, that's the US, exactly. But experienced rider, just thought he'd be fine for a couple of minutes without his gear, and that was it, you know.
One thing that I found interesting, if not funny, is that riders in the US, of any rideable, they tend to wear a lot more full-face helmets, because dental bills can rack up quite a lot of money. So whereas in Europe, I mean, we have the NHS and it's free at point of use, and it will cost us a few pounds to fix our teeth. But in the US, you really have to take care for yourself.
That's true. Yeah, that's very, very true.
There's an interesting comment here from SeekND FPV. Such rideables should be moved to cycle paths and create a much bigger, better network in cities. Otherwise, you're just going to be a danger to yourselves and others. It's true that infrastructure and accidents that happen are happening with the vehicles on the road rather than cyclists or electric mobility users or devices. So we do need to think about how we move forward in the future with the way that cities work. And it's interesting how the statistics for people who actually get ill every year. We work in my field, environment, health and safety. We look at statistics like how many people die every year from lung conditions that are caused and made worse by inner city pollution. So there's a whole other side to it as well that people need to consider, not just that putting these on the road is going to cause more incidents. Actually, changing the way that we live, changing the way that we move forward to have a more sustainable future is probably it is the right way to go, because we're going to see a lot less injuries, a lot less ill health with this sort of transport in the future.
Yeah, so on that infrastructure point, the government, because of COVID, accelerate, and because of these measures to get people away from public transport, they accelerated some measures to modify our infrastructure in inner city and gave money to local councils to change things a bit, which is quite positive. But I also have this niggling fear that things are being done in a haste. Because I used to live near Newcastle, and there's a road by the seafront that's going to be modified, and it's going to be just a one-way street by the seafront. And you should see the comments on Facebook from drivers, car drivers, are saying, "Oh, what's this about? They're taking the road away from us. No rights." So a lot of hate, really, a lot of hate towards not only cyclists but e-scooters and other rideables. So it's going to be a tough battle, and I feel for the local authorities, because they're trying to do something right and trying to put something right in a really short space of time with temporary measures and whatnot. But specifically the older generation, I seem to see more comments from the over 50s, over 60s, which feel really aggrieved by, oh, they're taking our liberties off of us. So it's going to be probably a few years before, even if this becomes legal, it'll be a few years before people start accepting us. And that's just a fact of life. People don't like change. And it's up to us to, I don't want to say the word educate, but it's up to us to set a good example and just show the general population that we're actually not a menace, we're an alternative, and a good alternative at it.
You raise an interesting point there, Ricardo, because there are 140 to 200,000 personally owned devices in the UK currently, and that's e-scooters, EUCs, electric skateboards, everything. And my own personal observation is that these things have been out for 5 to 6 years minimum, and I say that because it was in 2015 when our now Prime Minister proclaimed that these devices should be made legal immediately, no more fanning about and all the rest of it. And I think it's now come to a point where a lot of these people have seen the benefits that these devices bring, environment, cheap form of transport, everything else. They've waited longer than 5 years, and it's now come to a point where the past couple of years, I'm guessing, correct me if I'm wrong, the past couple of years, they've gone, well, okay, the legislation is never going to change. Now, I want to do my bit for the environment. I want to cut down my costs and everything else. Therefore, to some riders, it's worth the risk of going out there. Now, what I'm beginning to see now, and this is probably a bit unfair to rental users, but I'd be interested in your input. What I'm beginning to feel, there you go, feel is a better word, is that there seems to be an effort with, I would like to think, a majority of owners or riders of personal devices where they are wearing the correct gear, they are riding sensibly to protect their investments, and in a lot of cases, they are being courteous and sensible to other pedestrians, other road users, etc. Now, the way I see it is that there's almost like an illegal PR program going on for own devices. And alongside that, we've got the government trying to implement rentals where you've got people with zero experience at all, the drunks coming out of pubs and everything else, doing their bit. And there's going to be, well, I would like to believe that the public will see two different sides. You've got the personally owned sensible lot, and you've got the not so sensible rental scooter riders.
Yeah.
And plain as day. That's my view. Maybe it's just a wish, but
the people that have had these devices for a while, that they're not going to use them, that they're not going to really choose to hire a scooter when they've got something that they trust and they've used for a long time. So the data.
Yeah, they'll just buy a sticker and put it on their own personal devices. And okay, I read this up. I'm not advocating this by any way.
I think it's going to skew the outcome a little bit though, because the data they will get is going to be those people who haven't used them before, as opposed to the people who have, and that's going to skew it. Also, I think the way it's been represented in the media, scooters have been represented in the media, can be quite biased, and so there can be inflammatory news stories out there about how dangerous they could be and so on. So I think that it may not be really representative of what it really could be for the country. And I think what it could be for the country is an answer to an awful lot of problems. There's congestion problems in inner cities. Anyone who works in London knows how awful it is to get on that tube in the morning. Throw in COVID as well, or post-COVID. Going around Manchester in peak rush hour is a nightmare. Anyone knows it's normally, any major city, it's normally like an hour to get from the outside to the inside, just in your car or on a bus. Not pleasant, not a great way of doing it. But this sort of devices can allow those short journeys to take place much quicker and much safer, I think. Put the right infrastructure in place. Some basic safety and training awareness. Basic, understanding how to stop, understanding how to start and move, and also being aware of the hazards around you so you don't plow into some old ladies or children. This sort of thing. I think I could see a future of travel for a lot of inner city people.
Well, that's true. And Rob, earlier on, you picked up on an interesting point about Boris Johnson, our current PM, being in favor of these vehicles, of these personal electrical vehicles. And it's actually quite an important revenue stream and quite an important industry. There was a study released by McKinsey not a long time ago, and they were estimating this industry to be worth several billions, tens of billions. I can't precise the number, but it's certainly going to explode in the next few years if it becomes legal, which we all hope it does. So, at a time where Britain is struggling, the UK is struggling to get deals done with the outside world, why not invest in home brews, in home-based companies that can develop these devices and actually build them in here and make a new industry out of it? I mean, you are pioneers in the automotive industry. Sadly, a lot of that manufacturing is going, and we barely have any UK wholly owned brands, apart from the cottage industry, like Morgan or that kind of vehicle, kind of car. So it's kind of a chance to have a rebirth of our mobility industry. What are your thoughts on that, Rob?
Oh, I mean, you brought two images to mind. So yes, I mean, we are the economy is taken or continuing to take a huge hit, and the government need to encourage as much innovation as possible. And yes, there are huge figures with regards to personally owned devices, and of course, it's not. If you compare them to rentals, rentals, the government will get their tax cut on the on the rental cost of these rentals. But when it comes to personally owned devices, and as Amanda says, as these become adopted and become more and more commonplace, then we're talking a potentially huge tax revenue for the government, and not just the sale of these devices, but the sale of accessories, safety gear, servicing, so on and so forth. And the image you just brought to my mind, Ricardo, was with our high quality manufacturing and our innovative car industry and engineering design standards that we have in this country. I thought, an e-skate or an EUC or an e-scooter made by the Williams team, or made by Rolls-Royce, perhaps.
McLaren.
McLaren, yes. Yeah.
Look at that.
McLaren scooter. There we go. E-skate.
Yeah. I'd love it.
So that'd be fantastic.
Someone raised the point. Sorry to interrupt. So someone raised the point about batteries and the recycling scheme for old lithium battery packs. Because we all know that, someone needs to think about the whole life cycle, because lithium is a finite element. What are your thoughts on that thing?
Moja already is starting to look at this. So when they had their kind of end of life in a PEV, he's looking at a way of taking them out and recycling them into maybe sort of lower power devices. So someone already is on this and looking at it.
Amanda, you work for a company, and you work for a division of the company that is producing battery materials. You probably have the inside story on this. Are you guys looking at the whole life cycle, or is it just supplying battery materials for life?
Yes. So there are battery companies. There are companies getting set up now across the world. Actually, I work for one of them. But there are looking at new battery technologies, safer battery technologies, longer life, easier to charge, better generally. And I think that this is a real industry where there's a lot of investment and a lot of activity. It's centered around the electric car field at the moment. This industry seems to be, but there are many other applications. And in my own personal opinion, I see this as being a huge element of what the technology that's being developed now by companies can end up supporting. Everybody's aware of some of the horror stories around batteries and battery fires and how to manage battery safety. But there is definite strides ahead in the development of battery materials.
What about the whole life cycle, the recycling of used batteries? Are you guys just manufacturing new things, or are you actually, so you supply the automotive industry, and then the automotive industry supplies you back with old batteries that you can recycle and extract the cobalt and the lithium out of it? How does that work?
I cannot comment directly on the company that I work for, but I'm aware that the companies that are dealing with developing battery materials are all looking at the entire life cycle of the batteries, because sustainability is key for every company now. Every major company needs to look at the entire life cycle impact of what they're producing. And so I do know that there are lots of recycling opportunities and things that they're looking at to improve the sustainability impact of these products.
I think it's interesting that sorry, Ricardo, that
go on.
there are more and more of these devices are starting to adopt the same battery technology that electric cars use. So I think that these 21700 cells or whatever. I'm not a battery expert, but that's I mean, to me that was a sign of the micromobility devices starting to move up to the more reliable or a higher version of reliability than they were previously with the cheaper batteries. But yes, the whole life cycle of batteries generally needs to be addressed. Hopefully, we are way past the battery fires of the hoverboard days, because that was a horrendous time.
That's an interesting point, because a lot of people were, less. They were less keen on trying these things because of the overboards, the cheap imports that we got from China, just catching fire. And again, the headlines, that's what killed the overboard. So if we can keep a sustainable business, a sustainable UK-bred business around the e-scooters and other micromobility devices, something that transpires quality and good manufacturing practices, these things there's a lesser chance of these things going wrong, and that contributes to the public accepting these PEVs. One thing that I wanted to mention is that actually digging out lithium and cobalt from the ground, transforming, processing, making them into electrolytes, packaging them, putting them in a supply chain that goes literally around the world, from Congo and South America to China and back to Europe and the US. That's a lot of energy in there and a lot of cost. So we really need to think about on the future, and we're saying a bit about legalization in here, but we need to think about in the future in ways to, one, reduce the metal content of it, so that countries like Congo and Chile and Bolivia don't suffer the fate that other countries have suffered with oil, because the lithium and cobalt are the new oil, new black gold. So we need to reduce the amount of these metal into the batteries, and we need to make them safer and easier to manufacture in countries like the UK. So going back a bit onto the legalization aspect, we have a website, rideables.org. I'm not sure if Tim can put it up. Oh, there you go. It looks like you were ready. So we've put together a bit of a framework which should help not only the private users, but also the rental schemes and the people that will rent these e-scooters during this period. So maybe, Tim, if you can go onto our framework in the website and check the guidelines. So it's loading now.
My internet's a little bit slow today.
So while it's loading, oh, okay, it's loaded now. So we have a few good things about road safety and riding etiquette, and it's basically what we've been talking about in this stream. We need to have appropriate safety gear to ride around, because we know that accidents will happen, and when they happen, we need to be prepared. We need to obviously try them before going on busy roads, and that's again one of the fears that we highlighted, that people just come out of the pub and ride one of these rental scooters without previous experience. So we advise just build up your confidence. Also, group rides. This is a feature that we see in skateboards, e-skateboards, and EUCs, and to a certain extent e-scooters. We try to ride in groups, so we just need to be aware of the traffic, the cars around us, the people around us. So we just need to be careful and aware of our surroundings. When we want to change the direction, just hold out an arm. If you want to stop, you just hold up your hand, and then just wearing lights, just fitting lights to your devices. It's always a good thing to do. Just become visible. I mean, for instance, bicycles, actually, on this aspect, bicycles, people that are riding bicycles, they ride a lot lower than, say, e-scooters or EUCs or skateboards. And in that sense, we're a bit more visible than them. So if we can wear a light in a backpack or in the helmet, that's a way for cars to see us. So being seen is actually quite a good thing if you don't want to be run over. If you want to go out on the road, don't be an arse. I've ridden in London plenty of times for plenty of years now, and the only times that I've been stopped by the police, it's because they actually want to see what's that all about, and they actually want to take a photo or they want to try it, and that's because I try to ride sensibly. Obviously, there's always a temptation to go a bit faster and whatnot, but if you're aware of your surroundings and if you're not causing a nuisance, why would the police even bother? You know, obviously there's the 1% that Tim was talking about that will try to hunt for the fine. That was visible a few months back when there was a famous vlogger, a YouTube star that died, and it made the headlines. So for the following 2 or 3 weeks, they started confiscating our PEVs. That lasted what, 2, 3, 4 weeks, and then it just died down. Yeah, so it was kind of a show of force, something to show the newspapers that the police were actually being proactive, and it's something that they want to do. And I bet that some of those police officers that were on the beat and taking e-scooters and issuing fines, they probably were feeling sorry for themselves or for people that they were issuing fines to, because they see the advantages too of using these devices. So just ride with etiquette, ride sensibly, don't be an arse on the road, pardon my French. Is there anything that you want to add to this, Rob or Amanda?
Well, I think that presumably because I'm a safety in my role in my job, I think that this sums up some simple basic rules that are going to eliminate a lot of potential injury, and not just to the rider but to other people on the roads. I think if having seen some of the way that some cyclists have behaved or behave and have reported behaving, if they could also follow these simple rules as well in some cases, you know. So I think that having respect for other road users and expecting not expecting the unexpected is key as well, so that you're aware of what's coming up. You know, the near misses I've seen are when people or dogs or children run out in front of you, and you know this is a hazard for cyclists as much as it is for us. But that's where the danger comes. Also, wearing basic safety gear, it's so important. A lot of cyclists miss that one, and unfortunately suffer from that. When you're on an e-vehicle of any kind, you do have the potential to get into a situation where you're going to be really injured unless you do wear one, which is one of my main concerns as a safety professional when I look at the government rental scheme. I think it's going to be highly unlikely that someone's going to have a helmet, and if they do, it will probably be the wrong type for the activity. Yeah.
Tim, on the website, there's a bit about micromobility overview on the framework. And this is, we're getting to the end of our stream, and I didn't want to miss this opportunity to get the mind map out there. And maybe Rob, you can talk a bit more about this because you're the expert on it. It looks a bit complicated and convoluted, but actually it's quite simple to follow.
Yeah, it's designed as an overview, a micromobility overview. So it's not purely for e-scooters, but it does touch on the trial. But we try to focus it around micromobility, and it really is designed as a reference card, easy to use, easy to refer to, and it's broken down into a number of key sections. So you've got a rented devices section, which shows the advantages, the disadvantages, safety information, speed, etc. And then as an attempt at doing a one-on-one comparison, there's a similar section, I think it's to the right, which is for privately owned devices. And the interesting thing about doing this mind map, and the team put this together, it wasn't just one person, was that and this was on purpose, was that the rental disadvantages were way outdone by the privately owned advantages, and it was plain as day when it's put down in this format. Now, in addition to that, we put in if you like, a reminder reference as to the Department for Transport, our UK government definition of micromobility, and also some key facts about how other countries have found people, getting out of their cars and using their micromobility devices instead of cars, thereby improving the environment, reducing congestion. And on the very bottom to the right, you'll see a media section there. And there we captured some key quotes from some well-known politicians, as well as newspapers, which are basically saying, come on, people, let's get these things legal. They're great. We know what the benefits are. And there's a link at the very bottom where you can actually download that PDF file, and you're free to print it out, give it to whoever you want to, or indeed send it to your local MP if you wish to. But it's there to give anybody a high-level overview and a balanced comparison between rental and privately owned devices. And feel free, download it, take a look, and feel free to ask any questions by email to the Rideable group.
Yeah, good stuff. Tim, I see one of the tabs in there is the V112 Declaration of Exemption. Is that something that you want to talk about? Obviously, we're not here to give legal advice, but tell us a bit more about that.
So sometimes when you get stopped, things people say to you is, that can't be MOT, that's why it's illegal. This turns out to not strictly be the case. So if you look at form V112, and there's a lot of reasons why not. And if you look at section O here, the vehicles with a maximum design speed of less than, ironically, 15.5 miles an hour do not require an MOT.
Interesting.
Yes. So you can fill the form in, put the number, because a lot of them like the Evolve, you've got a digital number, you put your number down, your name, sign it, send this form off, and under section O, your device does not need an MOT according to
what a nice legal loophole.
Yep, you're welcome.
Is this something that you're going to try?
Yeah, I'm going to send mine off tomorrow and see what kind of response I get.
Yeah, I'm going to do the same.
I think this is a very good way of finishing our stream on a high. Maybe we can actually get around the rules and drive our vehicles safely and legally.
Yeah.
So anything remaining really would be insurance.
Yeah. You don't have insurance for a vehicle like a bicycle or anything like this, but if someone wants to bring up insurance, I'm sure that's something that you can get covered as well.
Yeah.
So actually, bicycles, I mean, I've ridden my bicycle at way over 30 miles an hour. Do I need an MOT for a bicycle?
No.
Because it's not motor, not
motorized. It's limited to 15.5, exactly the same.
Okay. Very
so are we talking hardware limited or limited via software app? I wonder.
I don't think it specifies. Does it specify?
It doesn't, does it?
It says design speed.
Design speed. That's interesting because it leaves open to interpretation.
Yeah.
Because I mean, my skateboard, by design, it can go up to 30, 35 mile an hour on my skateboard. But if I, because I can limit it with my remote, because it's a DIY remote, and I can limit it. I can limit the speed. So it's a design feature of my skateboard. So by design, it's limited.
And indeed, so is the app. So the app is designed to control and limit the speed, and it comes with the device. So therefore, that could well be part of the. How interesting! I did not know that. Tim, thank you so much.
No problem. I do a lot of
Revelation. Again, we're not here to give legal advice. And if you claim that rideables or a car we pay are giving legal advice, that's not the case. This is just exploring the possibilities. Tim, do we have any other questions from the group?
Yeah, sure. So someone mentioned insurance. Watch this space. We might be able to bring some news on insurance.
Insurance, that's a good point. There's we've talked as rideables to a couple of companies, a couple of insurance companies, and sadly for now they are interested in fleet insurance, in other words, in the rental scheme. But that's again that exercise that they are doing now for the rental schemes. They hope to extend it to private ownership when it becomes legal. So I've been talking to other people in the insurance industry, and it's something that will come around, say, 50, 55, 65 pounds a year. And for that kind of money, I mean, we spend hundreds of pounds in our devices. So 65 pounds a year, I think it would be a good compromise, or 55 pounds a year would be a good compromise to get us on the road. I wouldn't mind that at all. Is that something that you guys want to share any thoughts on?
I think, I mean, I've been talking with Lockton's, like most of us have in rideables, and the key issue is just that. I mean, they, and I'm sure many other insurance companies, would love to insure 150 odd thousand privately owned devices because it would be instant revenue for them. But the fact that they are technically illegal, they won't insure them. Or they won't provide insurance cover. Now, there are some other, I mean, you know, Tim, you had your loophole. I mean, because I have a registered disability, my electric unicycles are registered with the DVLA, and they have Q plates on them. And if I ride them as a class 2, I think it is, mobility scooter, which is 4 miles an hour on the pavement, then it is automatically covered by my home contents liability insurance.
Awesome. You have the plates in there to show us.
Sorry?
You have the plates in there to show us.
I do. Hang on a second. Let me just get this one down. So, I don't know if you can see this, but oh, there you go, front number plate.
There you go.
Rear number plate. There we go.
That's beautiful.
So all registered
I'd
with
be
the
amazed
DVLA.
if a policeman could figure that one out.
Well, I was getting confused looks when I was riding with only a disability sticker, because people were looking, wait a minute, he's disabled and he's riding an EUC. And I got a bit fed up with that. So yes, now it'll be interesting to see what they say about the plates. But again, the police interactions have been fine. So yeah, it's been.
You touched on an important point. I know that we're running out of time, but something that I wanted to highlight, and I almost forgot. A lot of these devices will allow a lot of the marginalized population that is staying at home and really has mobility problems. You know, you cannot easily walk down the road to go shopping, and they don't want to be seen in those walking chairs that you see in the pavement. In those disability scooters, they don't want to be seen in them because obviously it suffers a stigma. So e-scooters or the EUC or the electric skateboard, that would be a brilliant alternative to get away outside the home and get people moving more. So that's an important point you touched there.
Well, I'm actually seeing more and more people, and during the lockdown, I was doing some shopping for my folks coming back from their house, and going down this B road, and in the opposite direction was this guy, I swear, in his late 70s, on an M365 electric scooter. No doubt going around to visit relative or get away from the wife or whatever. But he was quite happy, and he was actually riding on the road. Or yeah, it was quiet then, but And I got stopped once by a lady when I was going for a ride on the south coast last year. And she, old lady with a dog, and she literally leapt out in front of me, waving her arms to stop me. And she very excitedly, she's almost like a child on Christmas morning, said, is that electric? And I go, yes, it is. And she said, I've just ordered one of these electric scooter things and I'm so excited. And I went,
brilliant. That's
good on
news.
you. That's utterly brilliant. You know, so more and more elderly people with walking difficulties that want to, you know, explore more but can't because of their, you know, their disabilities, whatever. Yeah. You know, these scooters are an absolute godsend to people with even with injuries as well, temporary injuries. They're an absolute godsend.
Well, they're so small, aren't they, in comparison to the mobility scooters that you see riding around, more practical.
And cheaper.
Cheaper.
Yes.
And, you know, I think that it'd be interesting to see the demographics of who ends up riding more of these in the future, to be honest.
Yeah, agree. Just a quick one. Newt 2706, thank you. A nice comment there from Newt.
Okay. Do we have any more questions, any more comments from the community, or are we about to wrap this up? I'm conscious that we're running out of time. Well, we've run over time.
One quick thing on that document I mentioned earlier, the power transporters. As you
Okay.
can see now, section 9 is missing, and section 11 is now missing. This document quite a bit. So a couple of points on this. One is point 3 about the laws. There is no specifically designed laws basically for power transporters. So they are covered by laws of motor vehicles, which is any mechanically propelled vehicle intended or adapted for use on the road. So that's something really important to look at. And also, there used to be a legal disclaimer at the bottom saying basically this document isn't law, but now it just links to this page saying we don't guarantee this to be actually current or accurate at all. So if someone waves this this guideline at you, please don't take it as law. It isn't. But
It's just guidance.
For a lot of people, and a lot of stuff on it is just waffle.
Okay. So I on a final note for myself, I really hope that these scooter trials end up being a success, because in a large measure our personal devices, our personal use will depend on that success. So I wish all the best to the government, and let's hope that we don't see bad headlines in the newspapers in the months to come, because I really want to ride safely and legally my electric skateboard one day in the future. Any final words, Amanda and Rob?
I also really want to see it as a success. I would really like the government to hear the voice of the people that have been riding these the longest, hear what we have to say, because a lot of us want to see this done safely and legally, and they want to protect themselves and other people on the road. And I know that I'm sure that this will springboard that. So let's see what happens at the end of these trials.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with you, Amanda. It's the concern is going to be the output of these trials. The last thing I want, well, my biggest fear is these rental trials going wrong through many accidents, that sort of thing, and that in turn having the impact on the legality of personally owned devices. So that would be a challenge to fight that one. But everybody, including the police, are well aware of the benefits that these devices can bring. And I would love, at some point in the not too distant future, to see roads that are full of cyclists, walkers, and mobility scooters with the odd electric car here and there, and lovely clean air to breathe and everything. That'd be wonderful.
Team, last words?
That's it. Really, from me, thank you for coming and watching us and listening to us. Stay safe, basically, and ride carefully.
See you on a group ride.
Definitely.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us.
Bye-bye.
All right, thank you. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
See you.
Bye-bye.